We are working into the night trying to get a template for this countertop. So we pick up the Corian tomorrow, and we'd like to install it tomorrow. So we just got all these boxes, and I honestly don't even remember everything that we ordered.
Yeah.
So we're gonna unbox them on camera and see what we got.
Corrosion X HD.
Corrosion X for the battery terminals.
Oh, a spool of one yellow cable. Triplex? Is that the right term?
That is way bigger than I thought it was gonna be.
This is some tough stuff.
Wow.
8 gauge?
Yeah. So those are bus bar covers and an AC insulating panel for the AC panel.
Lined heat shrink.
Perfect.
3/4 inch.
Yep.
All right, I see an AC main panel.
Boom.
A AC main power distribution panel. Lock nuts, lugs.
Cable lugs.
Cable lug. Power bar.
It's a big power bar.
Tin plated. And then we got, 2 power bars.
This is the main DC bus bars.
Oh, lots of accessories. You know, we have a whole box of this in the boat too.
Yes, we do. But that we used a ton of it, so.
We used a ton already?
Yep.
That makes sense then.
So we got even more.
This is the heavy part of that
That's
package.
250 feet of 12 gauge duplex. That's for our DC system. What do we have here, Randy?
Alright, so we have solid surface that we're going to be putting in our galley. You might be more familiar with the term Corian. Corian is actually a brand of solid surface, but most people call it by that term. This particular solid surface is LG Himax. The color is concrete gray, and this is what we picked up from a local shop. It had remnants there, and it happened to have 2 large slabs of this concrete gray. So we have this piece, and we have another piece here in the trailer that we're going to use as well.
So it may not look like much, but we spent about 10 times the amount of time that we have on any other templates as we have on the ones for this.
Yes.
But because we couldn't get a piece that was actually long enough for the entire galley, we're actually doing the galley in 3 pieces. Now, the cool thing about solid surface is that if you use the correct glue, you can actually glue it together, sand it, and it'll look completely seamless. So we're not worried about 3 separate pieces. We just have to make sure those 3 separate pieces are pretty perfect.
So you might notice that this template looks a little wacky. We actually used tape to fill in some areas that we cut too much off and things like that. And I know a lot of people's mentality is to then take this and transfer it onto a whole new sheet and redo it. But my thought is, what are the chances that we don't make a mistake in transferring it? So I'd rather use this wonky copy than to try to transfer it and make another mistake.
So you guys might be asking what the cost of the solid surface is. Now, we went into basically a kitchen and bathroom contractor that buys this stuff from the manufacturer, and they gave us below their cost. We got both these sheets for around 800 bucks, and they're both about 65 inches by 30 inches. Not crazy expensive, but definitely not cheap. Nevertheless, we don't want to make a mistake. Cool thing about solid surface, and the reason why we chose it, is the fact that you can actually cut it with basically standard woodworking tools. You can sand it to basically a perfect finish just by wet sanding it and going, you know, higher grit, all the way up to like 1600 grits while you're wet sanding it. But you can also join it together seamlessly, like I said before. So it's very, very versatile, and it's also a little more flexible than something like quartz or granite or anything like that, which really don't have a place on a boat because of all the movement in the boat. It might actually crack underway. So a lot of boat manufacturers use Corian or another type of solid surface in their boats. So it's pretty cool, and we're excited to use it. If you're familiar with Sailing Uma, they actually just put in Corian in their galley and their head, and we actually just recently went over to the boat and saw it, and it looks really
amazing.
awesome. Yeah, it looks really good. Dan did a really good job. So we're excited to get our Corian in our boat. We don't have the glue yet, so we're not going to be able to join it today, but we're going to make the cuts and we're going to put them in place for you guys to see.
Here is the template. We taped it down like crazy so that it was just perfect. Now we outlined what's there. We're going to remove the template. I'm a nervous wreck, but hopefully it ends up turning out nicely. All right, fresh blade on the DeWalt, I don't know, circular saw.
Well, I do really like these masks because they've yet to fog. You can see how hot and humid it is. So they don't fog, which is pretty cool. I like that.
Look at the drips of sweat down the board.
Woo!
Yeah.
Hey, look it. You want to see what it's going to look like once you're done wet sanding it? You can see it in my sweat.
You got it?
Yeah.
We're going to cut the cooler hole in here since it has better support on the underlayment than it would trying to cut it out there on the table. So that's the first piece in. Slide that into place. Hopefully.
Yep, that looks like it overhangs too, so we're good. So we
want that overhang just so we can route it off, especially considering it has print on it.
So that overhang's fine because we can route that off with the flush cut bit.
So it started to rain while we were out there, and we had a little bit of sanding to do to finish up the last piece, but we're gonna see if it fits. It's probably not. It's gonna be a little tight, I think.
We're gonna give it a try. This is a good college try.
That's backwards.
I know. I'm
Alright.
flipping it this way. Oh.
Probably had to finish sanding that back edge, so.
I mean, it generally fits together. We just need to sand off a little bit of material on that back edge. And then once we fill those gaps in between, we level it out, sand it, you will not be able to see that there's actually a transition.
It's getting close to 11 o'clock at night, and we are continuing to work into the night so that we can get some more things off of our list done. I'm actually working on editing an episode, finally starting to help out with that. I'm sure Jordan appreciates it. But actually, Jordan's in the middle of something as well. He's working on our electronics and wiring. He's installed the isolation transformer and also the Quattro, which is our inverter charger. And he's starting to template out where the AC panel, DC panel, and other accessories are going to go as well.
Building a top for the battery box, and this is just 5mm plywood underlayment. It's not marine grade at all, but we're going to be putting a layer of fiberglass on it and painting it so that it's going to be waterproof. This is just going to be the top to the battery box so that if any water ever drips on the battery box, it doesn't go in the battery box, it goes around it.
So unsurprisingly, this did not fit in one piece, and we have to cut it in half and find a way to waterproof it while still being in two pieces to allow it to be removable once it's on the battery tank. Yay, fun.
So this is what the top looks like on the battery box. Now, the batteries are going to sit in here, and we're going to put a plexiglass panel right here so that you can see the batteries when you open up this. You'll see the motor here, and right behind it you'll see the Battleborn batteries. It'll look really cool. We're going to fiberglass this and paint it white with the bilge coat to make everything match, and we should be good. This is not going to be strong enough to hold the batteries down in case of maybe like knockdown or capsize or anything like that. So I know I might get some questions about that. What our plan is for that is to actually strap the batteries into the box.
Just going to get one layer of glass on the top, and then we're going to bilge coat the rest. Alright, so we're going to leave this outside to set up overnight, and tomorrow we're going to have a nice surface that we can paint with bilge coat, and then we can put on and basically make that box watertight. And the only thing we're making it watertight from is just potentially, you know, drips from, you know, maybe the cockpit or something that leaks in the cockpit, like the steering column and everything. Nothing really should leak, but it's just a little bit of an extra assurance that, you know, if there's a little bit of drips from rainwater, it's just not dripping directly onto the batteries. So it's going to drip onto this cover. 13.4.
Nice. Consistent. Yes.
So they are all 13.4 volts. So we're good to go. Just a little about these batteries, guys. These are Battleborn 100 amp hour 12 volt LifePo batteries. That's lithium iron phosphate. These actually are a more stable battery than lithium ion than what you guys might be familiar with. These are great for marine use. They don't need to be actively cooled, and they are really, really light, so they only weigh about 30 pounds each. We have 12 of them, so essentially we have 14.4 kilowatts of power right here sitting next to me. Once they're rigged in series, we're going to have like 3 48-volt batteries and 300 amp hours essentially at 48 volts. So each like column of these is going to be a separate 48-volt battery essentially. Just finishing all these inter-battery cables, and we only have shrink wrap that's good for one side. So this is the positive side.
We bought the red shrink wrap, heat wrap, and we forgot to buy the black. So
yeah, so we don't have black, but we're shrink wrapping the one side with red, and then we're gonna go and buy some black shrink wrap and shrink wrap the negative side with black
in the morning.
In the morning.
And then we're going to wire up those batteries because we are back to the extension cords. Alrighty, so we were able to make the cables last night with the red heat shrink wrap, and then we just added to each of them the black heat shrink wrap. And Jordan is now back in the battery compartment, or I should say the engine room, motor room maybe is now more appropriate. And he is starting to wire the batteries in series, and then we will wire each series in parallel.
We just finished actually wiring all the batteries up in series, so now we basically have like 3 big 48-volt batteries. Now we have to put them in parallel, and we just made battery cables for that. So they're still yellow, but instead of having opposite red and black, we do black and black for connecting obviously the negatives, and then red and red for connecting the positives. So I honestly don't know what the standard convention is, but this makes sense to me, so this is what we're doing.
Jordan's trying to problem solve how to wire the positive terminals at the back. It's hard with the reach and also the cockpit being right in the middle of it. We'll figure it out. He's gonna probably have to hop over to the starboard lazarette and then over to the port lazarette.
Yeah.
But we'll get it done. Now I see 53.4.
53.4?
53.4. 53.4.
53.4. So we got even voltage along all of the terminals. So we're good.
Oh my god, that was so loud.
Sorry.
I've got it right and I got it wrong, but I learned my